It's your boy Amreezy, and I'm back with another Road to Sorare Boss episode where we follow my journey in the wonderful world of Sorare. We talk all things Sorare. If you're new around here, get comfortable, make a cup of tea. If you've not got a cup of tea, don't worry. Pause the video, go make a cup of tea. While the video's paused, if you could give me a like and a subscribe, massive help, huge help. Unpause that video. Sorare's fun. Sorare's fun. I think last week was the first weekend where I was properly invested in some cards where I had good lineups, where I felt confident in cards that I was playing, that they had a realistic chance of winning some stuff. I did win a card at the weekend. It wasn't the best card, a T5 card, but I also won a lot of essence. I won a lot of Sorare essence. I won some boxes. I think I won about 4 boxes, all with essence. So I'm really appreciating the whole Sorare essence thing they have now, where you can slowly win these boxes if you don't finish in like the top couple of 100 places, but you can get some essence boxes if you finish a little bit below that. Collect all of that essence and get a card later down the line. So I've already got the ability to, I think, almost get a T4 card. If I just save up a little bit more, I'm thinking maybe a tier 3, tier 2 I might save up for in a few weeks and then get a card like that. So I'm really appreciating the essence. But let's start this week's video by looking at how I started off, how I did last weekend in the wonderful world of Sorare. Okay, this is how I did last weekend in what was August the 23rd to the 27th. There was a midweek set of fixtures, but they were mainly European qualifying games. There was a Chelsea fixture, but I think the only Chelsea card that I have of interest was Nkunku scored 129 points, which was nice, but it was too hard to predict the rest of the lineup. So nothing to report midweek, but last weekend, let's start with, we'll do it in order of how they've lined it up. So there was these special lineups that they had where it was anti-stacks, where you couldn't have 2 cards from the same team. So this is the one serious team that I put out for that competition. And I was surprised João Palhinha didn't play for Bayern Munich. Slightly annoyed. I should have probably done a bit more research. Probably should have expected him not to start for Bayern Munich. But Palhinha didn't play for Bayern Munich. But the Santos goalkeeper did okay. Thiago Silva did okay. This boy playing in Turkey, Samudio, I got him for my Nikaxi collection. But he's been doing really well. Keeps getting big scores. Let's have a little look at his past scores. So he started the season and we came off the bench with a 39. But the next 2 games he started 86 and 70. So he's been doing really well. And then Villapando didn't have the best results. So I had nothing really to report from the specials. Nicholas Jackson, it was a great week for Chelsea. I was delighted, obviously. A lot of my Chelsea cards did well. So Chelsea won 6-2. A lot of their players getting involved. Jackson had a good game. Palmer had a good game. Madueke had a good game. I do have a Madueke card that I didn't play in any of my lineups this week. He ended up getting a hat trick. So now Madueke is a serious card for me to think about in the Premier League. The Premier League lineups that I did put out were, I wasn't that confident on Chelsea or West Ham. They're my 2 collections, Chelsea and West Ham. I didn't think they'd, because they both had away fixtures, so I was a bit suspicious. They both didn't do well in the first game of the season. They both lost the first game, or drew the first game in West Ham's case. But Chelsea beat Wolves 6-2, and West Ham beat Crystal Palace 2-0. Crystal Palace, surprisingly bad start from them. A lot of people had Crystal Palace down as one of those teams to have a good start to the season, to continue where they left off, but they didn't. So the team that I went for as my kind of A Premier League lineup was 334. So I got a promotion and I won a box, but it wasn't good enough to win a card. In the Premier League One's case, it was because Solanke didn't play for Spurs. He was a bit of a fitness risk, but I thought he'd still play for Spurs because it's not a massive injury. They are expecting him maybe to come back the weekend this coming, or if not that, the weekend after. It's not a serious injury. So I risked Solanke and he didn't play. So that hurt me winning a card. But everyone else delivered. Robertson, 2-0 win for Liverpool. Robertson kept a clean sheet. 110 from him. Delighted. Kovacic, I played because I thought Rodri's still out. Kovacic is going to play. But now that Manchester City have Gundogan, I don't think Kovacic is going to be as good of a card as I thought in Rodri's absence. So we'll see. I think when the Champions League resumes, Kovacic should get games either in the league or the Champions League. But for now, I'm not going to risk Kovacic now that Gundogan's back. And then Cole Palmer, 95 from him. 3 assists and a goal. Cole Palmer is going to be a great card for me this season. I am optimistic about Chelsea. I always was, but that 6-2 win against Wolves has made me think, Palmer, Madueke, Nkunku. There's some great cards there. If Chelsea can just stick with them and play the other guys in the European leagues and get rid of the likes of Sterling and all of the kind of unhappy players, could be a good season still for Chelsea, even though there's a lot of ridicule about Chelsea. Secretly optimistic. So, and Nick Pope in goal, still the Newcastle goalkeeper. I've been saying on the channel for a while, Ramsdale. I do have Kepa. They've both moved. Kepa's gone to Bournemouth and Ramsdale gone to Southampton, which should mean Newcastle stick with Nick Pope this season, which is good for me. The second lineup, it was more of a West Ham lineup with Joe Linton. And Joe Linton let me down here. So West Ham, the guys did well. Kilman scored. Or was it an assist? I think it might have been he got an assist. Kilman got an assist and a clean sheet. So 104 from Kilman, really good score. Kudos has had a bit of a quiet start to the season for West Ham, but, I'm still confident in him going forward that he's an exciting player for West Ham. Once they click with the fulcrum, Kudos should be in the lineup, but it's been a bit of a slow start from him. And then Bowen got a goal, which I was delighted for because I was a bit worried that he might lose his place with all these new faces. But Bowen started, played the 90 minutes, scored a goal. Happy days. And then Joe Linton did let me down. A yellow card. And it made an error that led to a goal. He did play 90 minutes, which I'm optimistic about. He's not going to make errors that lead to goals every game. But it wasn't the best performance from Joe Linton. Ideally, I would have played someone else, but I just didn't have anyone that I could have confidently played with him. So Joe Linton had to come into this team. Contender got excited. Contender's where I won my first card this season. Tier 5, so not the best card. But if I hadn't have played Brunetta, I'm really excited about these two, the Burgos boys. 117 from Sanchez up front, and the midfielder Sanchez got a goal as well. So they both got goals. I'm really excited about Burgos this season. They've kept a lot of their players. These two are the main guys. I've got them both. My big guy in Liga MX defender, Piovi, another good score from him, even though he was away. Clean sheet, amazing score. Look at these greens. Solid greens, involved in everything. 103 from him. Brunetta was a disappointing performance. It does seem like he's not in the first team every week. When he's in the first team, he seems to do well, but then he gets dropped. Then he's in the first team. So I'm going to be a lot more cautious with Brunetta again. I put him in this week's lineup because I was like, he's back in the Tigres first team. Brunetta's back in the lineup after a good week, but then he's dropped again. So it's really hard to predict how Brunetta's going to be doing. So I might put him in speculation lineups for a while. The goalkeeper in Dusseldorf let in one goal, but still a respectable score for a goalkeeper. So he's been doing well. My other lineup was Necaxa heavy, Necaxa focused. So I put 4 Necaxa cards. They won 3-0, but the striker wasn't involved in anything. So these two guys gave me good scores of 100s. I won a box. I won another box where I got some of the boxes I did quite well. The prizes were like 20 essence was in one of the box. 10 essence was in another box. So I did get a lot of essence from these boxes, but the striker let me down, and Marquez, he did okay as well. Marquez at Atlas is doing well, chipping in with assists, chipping in with good scores. So again, the card that let me down here was Cambindo. I can see though from my lineups, like this lineup, he let me down. This lineup, he let me down. There will be weeks, I'm sure, where 5 cards don't let me down. They're the weeks I'm kind of hoping for. They'll give me my rewards. And then my under 23 lineup, I was saying last week's video, I was optimistic about my under 23 lineup this week, but no one really did well. Udogi did okay at Spurs, which was encouraging, but the rest of them, thumbs downs. So those were my serious lineups last week. The card that I won, so I've not really been buying many cards. This was the last card that I showed you I bought. So this is the card that I bought from Japan. I've looked him up. Doesn't score well. He's going to be sold. I'm either going to sell him, I'm going to transfer list him, or trade him with a bot for like a card that helps with one of my collections. So he won't be sticking around long, but it's always nice to win a card. Or I'm still at that stage as a Sorare manager where even a T5 card is still winning a card, still getting a box, still exciting for me. So that's how I did last weekend. Let's take a look at my coming lineups for this weekend coming up. Let's do this, ladies and gentlemen. Game week 5. These are my lineups for the coming weekend in Sorare. The special competition this week. And I got to say, I'm loving these special competitions. It's really I'm not really taking it too seriously, any of the special competitions. I'm kind of putting cards that don't really fit anywhere else. But I am liking the kind of creative kind of way you're able to think in a different way, basically. So this week, it's special. It's a tackle, top tacklers. So players that make tackles are going to get rewarded bigger. I think you get extra points for every tackle made, which is interesting. Last week it was you can't have players from two teams. The week before that, it was a cap 250. So I'm liking that each week's weekend so far, there's been a special competition, which just makes me think about my cards in a different way. Like, there's cards that I'm like, I don't actually want to play them, but oh, he does make a lot of tackles, and I wouldn't play him in my leagues. I'll show you what I mean. So I'm only taking the first one seriously, Team One. These are kind of mainly just to build XP because I couldn't fit these guys anywhere else. Like Andy Robertson's got a tricky fixture away at Manchester United, so I didn't want to play him in the Premier League, but he can go in this league without. These two teams are punt lineups. Ramsdale and Kepa have both got moves now, so I've got two Premier League goalkeepers added, which is really good for me. I have now got 4 playing Premier League goalkeepers. That's why I didn't buy the Chelsea goalkeeper, because I always knew I had this in my locker, and if the transfers went my way, then I had more goalkeepers. So that I could still buy the Premier League goalkeeper, a Chelsea goalkeeper in the future once it's more established who that is. But for now, Ramsdale and Kepa, I don't know if they're going to play straight away, which is why they're in these gamble lineups. Like maybe Ramsdale plays, maybe Kepa plays. If they don't, it's okay. These are kind of gamble lineups along with Chelsea players that I don't think will play, like Jackson and Felix. Or West Ham are playing Manchester City. So usually West Ham are a team I target, but because they've got a hard game, I'm going to scatter their cards around rather than go for a West Ham stack like I usually do. So Bowen and Souček are going to go in this team along with Paulinho. I don't know if he's going to play for Bayern Munich yet. And Fiorentina defender. The one I'm taking seriously is the Santos goalkeeper. So if you remember, my Mexican collections are Santos and Necaxa. They're playing each other this week. So I'm more confident on Necaxa doing well. So I'm going to play the Necaxa lineup in contender, and the Santos cards I'm going to scatter around. So one of them is going to be here. The goalkeeper is going to be in my top tacklers team, along with Thiago Silva. He makes a lot of tackles for his team in Brazil. Conor Gallagher, who I've got, who's now at Atletico Madrid. They've got a tricky game away at Bilbao, so I wouldn't want to play him in the champion lineup. I wouldn't want to play him in a La Liga lineup, but I know he makes a lot of tackles. I know it could be a tricky away game. He started the last game, so I'm hoping Conor Gallagher is now going to be playing for Atletico Madrid every week. If he does, makes a lot of tackles, maybe. The striker that I'm going for is Joe Linton, because he's a striker that actually plays in midfield, where he makes more tackles, where he gets more involved in play. So again, possibly could be good for the top tackler team. And then Nathan Silva is just a good scoring defender in Mexico, makes a lot of tackles. They don't always keep a lot of clean sheets, Pumas, but he's usually involved in play, chips in with the occasional set piece goal. So let's hope he does well for them too. So that's going to be my top tackler team. My Premier League teams, with my confidence in Chelsea restored. Chelsea are playing Crystal Palace at home. Crystal Palace have started the season really badly. Chelsea have just beaten Wolves, scoring 6 goals. With all of that in mind, I'm going to be going for Nick Pope in goal. Bit of a tricky fixture for Newcastle, at home to Spurs, but maybe if he doesn't keep a clean sheet, he makes a lot of saves. I do think Spurs will be creating a lot of chances, as they always do. So Nick Pope could have a busy day. A busy day could mean good for points. And then the 4 Chelsea cards that I'm picking, I really am spoiled for choice. I've got so many of the Chelsea cards now. I've got João Felix, I've got Pedro, I've got Jackson, I've got Nkunku. But the 4 that I'm more confident in are Cucurella, Enzo Fernandez, Cole Palmer, and Madueke. Madueke is a little bit of a gamble, but I do love that he's a forward card. So he should be playing on the wing, but he's a forward card. And he got a hat-trick against Wolves. Him and Palmer have a little connection possibly developing. Palmer assisting for Madueke a lot. So maybe these two are going to be a nice little double pairing for me. Cucurella seems to be the go-to left back. Enzo Fernandez in midfield. Maybe there'll be some weeks where Palmer is in midfield and I play Nkunku or I play Jackson. I'm just not fully certain they're nailed on. Nkunku played in the not the Champions League. I wish it was the Champions League. He played in the Europa qualifying, the Conference League qualifying game on Thursday. So I think maybe Nkunku's B team at the moment. But this looks like the A team with Nick Pope. The other team I'm going to go for is a bit of a mixed bag. It's going to be the West Ham goalkeeper and Kudos. So these two from West Ham. Ben Johnson is an interesting card for me. I bought him because he helps with my West Ham collection, and he didn't play the first game of the season against Liverpool. He came off the bench and got 33 minutes. Okay, 40 points, not bad. Second game against Manchester City, played the 90 minutes and got an assist. So Ipswich do play with very attacking wing backs, and they managed to get a goal against Man City. So now that the fixtures are going to get a little easier for Ipswich, so Liverpool and Man City, a really tricky start for Ipswich. But now that they've got Fulham at home, I'm hoping Ben Johnson plays again. If he plays in that attacking wingback formation, he could keep getting involved in goals. And Fulham at home is not the hardest game for Ipswich. So I think after two really hard games, we're gonna see more of what Ipswich are about this weekend. A more winnable game at home. Let's see how they do. With that in mind, I'm gonna be gambling that Ben Johnson does well. Everton. You don't know what I still think we don't know what to expect with Everton. Dwight McNeil did really well last game against Spurs. 60, not really well, but 60 considering they lost 4-0, he got 60 points. And in the game before, they lost to Brighton and he got 45 points. So I'm just hoping that they've now got Bournemouth at home. He's been putting okay scores against in defeats. So I'm hoping that Everton finally bounce back. If they do, Dwight McNeil should be involved and I'm going to captain him. And then Nkunku, mainly because I put him in this lineup because I'm not sure he plays. I don't know. Palmer, Madueke, I think it's going to be Palmer as number 10, Madueke on the right. But who's up front and who's on the left, I'm really uncertain about. It could be Felix, Nkunku, Jackson, and Neto. Between those four players, I can't fully work out who's going to get one of the remaining spots. However, after Nkunku scored on Thursday, I'm just wondering if that goal makes him play against Crystal Palace. And if it does, he's got to be in this team. If he comes off the bench, also could be an option. And then with Neto and Felix, I think I've scattered them in other lineups. Felix is in this lineup, and I think I put Neto in another lineup. So they're my Premier League lineups. My Challenger lineup is not that exciting. I feel like Challenger is the least exciting league that I have. So I've only got one goalkeeper. I've not got many defenders and midfielders. So they're going to be playing Union SG at home, LAFC at home, and then the boy in Turkey, Samudio, who's doing really well from Necaxa. He's gone to Turkey. Let's hope he keeps it going. I'm going to captain him. Nejli has been a bit of an interesting card for me as well. He's been usually my under 23 lineup or my challenger lineup. He scored one goal and he played 82 minutes. So basically the 90 minutes and he scored. So again, he got a little good score here. So I'm hoping he can continue that. Going to start him again in challenger. Let's see what happens there. I was going to play him in my under 23 lineup, but due to how other cards have fallen, Cade Cowell is a striker I usually put in contender if I have 3 contender lineups. I'm only going to have 2 contender lineups this week. So that means Cade Cowell can be my under 23 striker this week. The contender I'm feeling confident about this week, again, is my A team. It's going to be the 2 Burgos boys. It's going to be POV. It's going to be the Dusseldorf goalkeeper. These 4 are kind of becoming the 4 I always pick as my A team in my classic for contender. These 2 Burgos boys, POV and the Dusseldorf goalkeeper. And then it's a kind of who's fits. Usually it'll be Marquez at Atlas because he's been putting some good scores together. A 90 and a couple of high 70s. Not highs, low 70s. So he's been doing well. Hoping he can keep that going. Put another 90, that would be great. But there'll be weeks when this card changes and it'll be someone else. And then my other lineup, like I said, Santos are playing Necaxa. So I'm playing 4 Necaxa cards. And then a Juarez card to go along with them. Villapando usually scores well for Juarez. They do have a slightly tricky game away at Chivas, but Juarez have shown that they don't really seem to mind home or away fixtures. They're a bit random with when they do really well. So I'm hoping he does well. I don't want Necaxa to beat Santos, but I'm expecting them to beat Santos. And if they do, I've got all of the key boys in there. And then the last lineup is my under 23 lineup. I'm playing Cade Cowell, captaining him at home against Juarez. So that's going to be an interesting game for me because I've got players on both sides. I've got Cade Cowell as my captain for Chivas. I've also got Villapando in my contender lineup for Juarez. So hopefully one of them does well. Ideally, both do well. Yannis Stukas is going to be in there. Elliot Anderson is a bit of an interesting pick. He played last game for Nottingham Forest. They're now playing Wolves at home. Wolves have just been thrashed by Chelsea, he says with a smile. Wolves have just been thrashed by Chelsea. I'm hoping confidence is really low and Nottingham Forest can go there well, Nottingham Forest are at home, but hopefully Nottingham Forest have a good game. And Elliot Anderson, he's an under 23 card. I'm not fully convinced about him, but he played the last game, got a 54 score from a 75 minutes played. Hoping he has a big season for them this year. Could be a nice signing for them because these were his scores last year at Newcastle when he wasn't really playing every week, coming off the bench a lot. So if he can get in that Nottingham Forest first team like he did last week, maybe he could be a really good under 23 card for me. My goalkeeper had a terrible week last week, but I've got no other under 23 goalkeeper, so he's got to play again. And then Destiny Udogie away at Newcastle could be a tricky fixture, but Spurs are so attacking. He's always in the mix to get an assist, maybe a goal, but I feel like assists are his thing. So he got a 57 last week, which was nice. No decisives, but no goals or assists, but clean sheet, gets involved, makes a lot of passes. So hoping if he can just have 1 week where he gets an assist as well as all of those good decisive scores, Destiny Udogie could be a good card. But it's encouraging to see 2 games played for Spurs, 2 games started for Destiny Udogie. So on his day, could be a good scorer. So they are my teams for this coming week, guys. I am most excited about Chelsea, this Premier League lineup with Chelsea against Crystal Palace. And I'm also really excited about this contender team with my 4 big hitters in contender division. So that's how I'm doing, guys. Thanks for all the comments you've been giving me so far. All of the comments, I really like it. There's some really nice ones in last week's video. People telling me, that they like the channel, they like the videos. I love you all. We're family. Keep watching the channel. Keep supporting me. I love it. I'll be back next week. Good luck with your coming game weeks, people. Peace.